There's one brutal truth most men never learn. You cannot convince a woman to make you her priority. The more you try, the more optional you become. Because priority isn't something you negotiate. It's something you install, deep inside her psychology, until she can no longer imagine her world without you at the center. And this isn't about manipulation. It's not about playing games. It's about becoming the strongest, most unshakable version of yourself. The man she naturally values, respects, and fears to lose. Because when a man masters his own presence, his own emotional gravity, he doesn't need to chase being chosen. She reorganizes her entire world to keep him close. Stay until the end. Every rule you're about to learn has the power to rewire the way women see you. Not temporarily, but permanently. Because when you master this, you stop being an option. You become her priority. Let's begin. Rule 1. Become the emotional authority. She trusts above all. Most men believe women crave emotional safety, and that's partially true. But the rare man who becomes her absolute priority operates one level higher. He becomes the man who defines her emotional reality. She doesn't just feel safe around him. She uses him as a silent reference point to interpret her own emotions, doubts, and decisions. Machiavelli understood this at the core of power. The one who defines the standards, governs the game. You don't just stabilize her storms, you dictate the climate. Picture this. You're dating a woman who's had chaotic relationships in the past. Her exes were reactive, dramatic, always fluctuating emotionally. But you? When conflict arises, you stay calm, collected, unbothered. You don't chase arguments. You don't escalate. Instead, you guide conversations toward solutions, not endless emotional loops. Over time, she subconsciously recalibrates. She stops trusting her own temporary emotions and starts looking to your reactions to decide how serious any problem really is. Now imagine this if you're in a relationship or married. She comes home overwhelmed by work drama. Her emotions are high. Most men either absorb that energy or try to fix her mood instantly. You don't. You listen. You observe. You respond with steady, grounded insights. She realizes, when I lose control, he becomes even more centered. That's how emotional authority is installed. Here's your next smart play. Stop reacting to her emotions. Start leading her through them. Let her feel safe, but more importantly, let her feel stabilized by your presence. Because the man who becomes her emotional compass never becomes optional. Now let's move forward. Because the next lever installs something even more addictive inside her mind. Rule 2. Use subtle social proof to trigger her protection instinct. Most men either avoid jealousy entirely or provoke it recklessly. Both approaches are weak. The powerful man does something far more surgical. He introduces subtle signals that other women recognize his value, without ever competing or disrespecting his partner. Because nothing triggers a woman's instinct to protect her position more than seeing that other women quietly notice you. Machiavelli would frame it like this. Perceived competition preserves loyalty better than imposed control. Let's set the scene. You're dating casually. Most men try to look ultra-committed too early, eliminating all tension. You live your life fully. You maintain your social circle. You occasionally post high-quality photos from events, trips, or professional milestones. Women comment. Old acquaintances drop flattering remarks. You never mention them. You don't hide them. You simply allow her mind to register the undeniable truth. Other women see your value. Now picture this if you're in a relationship. At social gatherings, women naturally engage you respectfully. You maintain boundaries, but your charisma is noticed. Your partner observes these dynamics, not through your words, but through the energy others project toward you. Here's your next move. Allow organic, low-key visibility of your social demand. Don't provoke drama. Don't seek validation. Simply exist in a space where your desirability remains subtly visible. Because a woman who senses quiet competition invests deeper to protect what feels valuable. And that's how you move from option to priority. Now let's move forward. Because what comes next installs something far more permanent. Rule 3. Create emotional imprints. She can't replace. Attraction is not built through consistency alone. It's built through emotional anchors, powerful moments that embed your presence into her identity. The rare man engineers these deliberately, not by accident, not by chance. Machiavelli warned, memorable victories cement loyalty far longer than steady maintenance. For example, you're dating casually. Instead of repetitive dinner dates or meaningless texting, you create experiences. You take her to an unexpected live event she's always wanted to attend. You challenge her on a shared project or physical adventure. You share controlled, vulnerable stories about your personal growth, but always selectively. Now imagine this inside a long-term relationship. You involve her in milestones that feel deeply personal. Career decisions, investments, family interactions, private victories. Each moment binds her emotionally, not because she controls your world, but because she feels she's part of its evolution. These emotional imprints aren't random. They're designed to install a simple subconscious belief. No one else can replicate what we've built. Here's your next strategic move. Design intentional milestones. Challenge, elevate, and include her in moments that matter. Because shared victories create psychological ownership, and what she feels she owns, she'll fight hardest to protect. Now let's move forward. Because the next rule creates a dependency most men never recognize. Rule 4. Manage her micro-dependencies. Deep priority isn't maintained through grand gestures. It's maintained through daily, subtle emotional dependencies. The more she relies on you for micro-validations, advice, perspective, or grounding, the more irreplaceable you become without ever forcing it. Machiavelli understood. Control is not always exerted directly. It grows quietly through layers of dependence. Here's an example if you're single. Over time, she asks your opinion on decisions, social conflicts, personal dilemmas, not because you demand it, but because your input stabilizes her. You're her silent advisor. Her subconscious registers, "His perspective calms my mind." In a long-term relationship, she gradually defers to your structure, your morning routines, your financial strategies, your problem-solving methods. You don't demand obedience. You simply lead so effectively that following your lead becomes her default mode. Here's your next tactic to apply. Subtly offer clarity whenever she's uncertain, but never push unsolicited advice. Allow her to seek your guidance. Because when she habitually turns to you for clarity, you've already become her psychological anchor. Now let's move forward. Because the next rule installs the invisible fear that locks your priority position. Rule 5. Install the silent fear that she could lose you. Most weak men try to trigger fear of loss through threats, ultimatums, or passive-aggressive games. The strong man never does. He installs something far more effective. A quiet awareness that he could continue life without her if necessary. without ever needing to say it. This is not cruelty. It's simply the projection of sovereignty. Machiavelli would say, "He who depends on no one governs everyone." Let's set the scene. You're dating seriously. She feels your emotional connection, but also senses that your identity remains whole without her validation. You don't emotionally collapse when disagreements arise. You don't panic if she distances temporarily. You remain calm, focused, grounded in your mission. In a relationship, you continue to evolve. You build your wealth. You improve your health. You expand your networks. She observes that your world never shrinks to fit inside hers. And quietly, her mind whispers, "If I lose him, he keeps thriving. I might not." Here's your next actionable solution. Cultivate a life that progresses with or without her approval. Let your evolution be visible, but never boasted. Because the man who silently grows without permission installs a fear of loss without ever issuing a threat. Now let's move forward. Because once this fear exists, the emotional investment naturally flips. Rule 6. Shift the emotional investment balance in your favor. Attraction isn't a static feeling. It's a living balance, always shifting depending on who carries the emotional weight inside the relationship. Most men fail because they take on almost all of that weight. They're the ones texting first. They're the ones planning every date, validating her emotions constantly. They're always adjusting, always pursuing, always giving. And what happens? They slowly become replaceable. Not because they lack value, but because they remove the tension that makes a woman feel invested herself. But the rare man operates on a different level. He builds a dynamic where her emotional investment rises naturally over time, without ever forcing it. Machiavelli would frame it like this: power grows not through how much you give, but through how much others willingly give to remain close. Now let's ground this into your reality. Picture this if you're just starting to date her. At first, yes, your presence triggers the initial spark, but you don't fall into the trap of overgiving. You create space. You don't text her every morning. You don't immediately respond to every message. You let her feel small gaps where she starts to wonder, to think, to reach out. At first, she texts once. Then she starts initiating more. "Hey, are you free this weekend? I was thinking about you earlier. I made reservations. Hope you're free." You slowly allow her to become the one chasing moments with you, not because you demanded it, but because your presence triggers a desire to secure her position. Now imagine this if you're in a long-term relationship. Most men still carry the emotional labor years into the commitment. They plan every holiday, organize every social event, constantly maintain the relationship's momentum. You don't. You maintain your world, your work, your goals, your growth, and you allow her to take ownership of certain aspects of the relationship. For example, she starts managing the vacations. She plans surprise dates. Why? Because deep inside, she knows that maintaining access to you isn't automatic. She feels responsible for preserving the connection because she values it. And the more emotional energy she invests, the more psychologically attached she becomes. It's not manipulation. It's basic human nature. We protect what we invest in. Let's go even deeper. You'll start noticing subtle shifts. She brings you your favorite meal. She sends encouraging texts before key events. She initiates physical affection more often. She adjusts her schedule to fit yours. Not because you asked, but because she feels responsible for protecting the bond. Here's your next strategic move. Always leave room for her to step forward. Pause before replying. Let her suggest plans. Let her lead the reconnection after tension. The more she invests naturally, the deeper her attachment grows. And the man who carries less emotional weight, while staying calm and present, holds permanent leverage. Now let's continue. Because when this balance is mastered, you unlock the final level, where her entire identity starts rising through your presence. Rule 7. Become the man who elevates her entire identity. At the deepest level, every woman doesn't just want a man. She wants to feel elevated by the man she chooses, because being someone's priority isn't just about how much they love you. It's about how their self-image grows by being attached to you. Machiavelli understood this dimension of power. People remain loyal not out of duty, but because their status rises under your leadership. Let's bring this into your reality. You're not just attractive because of your presence. You're attractive because being with you makes her feel higher in her own eyes. Her status improves socially, emotionally, psychologically. Picture this if you're single. You introduce her to higher social circles. You encourage her personal growth without insecurity. You expose her to environments, experiences, and people that elevate her lifestyle. Without boasting, you become her access point to a better version of herself. In a committed relationship, you consistently push both of you toward higher standards. You invest in growth, health, wealth, and wisdom, and she evolves naturally alongside you. Her subconscious begins to link her own self-respect to staying connected with you. Because losing you wouldn't just mean losing a man, it would mean losing who she's becoming through your influence. Here's your next strategic move. Position yourself as the man who constantly upgrades both lives, without seeking credit for it. You don't beg for recognition, you simply lead. And in doing so, you create a silent addiction. Her identity improves as long as she's beside you, because the man who becomes her mirror of elevation never becomes replaceable. Now let's close this with the final clarity every man must absorb. You're not here to manipulate women. You're not here to play games. You're here to become the man they instinctively prioritize, because your existence adds undeniable value to their world. By mastering emotional authority, unforgettable imprints, subtle jealousy, micro-dependencies, quiet sovereignty, and natural investment, you become irresistible. You don't fight to stay in her life. She fights to preserve access to yours. True masculine power is never about control for its own sake. It's about constructing a life so solid, so purposeful, so emotionally elevating, that a woman sees your presence as a privilege she fights to keep. This isn't toxicity. This is leadership. It's the art of self-mastery projected into your relationships. While others negotiate for attention, while others beg to be chosen, while others chase validation, you build, you elevate, you lead. And because you never demanded to be her priority, she makes you one. Not because you forced her hand, but because she knows. Replacing him means losing everything I value. Walk this path. Don't apologize for it. Because true sovereignty always attracts what desperate men will never access. If this opened your eyes and you're serious about becoming the man who's in full control of his life, my book is now available. The Undeniable Man, Built to be Chosen. It's a strategic guide for men who want to attract, lead, and dominate in their love life and beyond. Whether you're single or in a relationship, no fluff, no tricks, just pure, powerful strategy that will set you apart from 99% of men, and that you will actually use every day. The link is in the description. And if this video spoke to you, don't just keep your thoughts in your head. Write a comment, even just a few words. It helps you remember these lessons, and it might help someone else too. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this content, and share it with someone who, in your eyes, needs it right now. Just trust your instinct. We're all trying to get clearer, more solid inside. So let's build minds that don't break.